Hi, I'm Lisa Martinez, and this is the story of how my mother-in-law's dream vacation turned into her worst nightmare. Sometimes the people you look down on aren't quite as powerless as you think. I met David Anderson at a coffee shop where I worked as a barista while pursuing my master's degree in business. He was different from the other wealthy customers. Kind, genuine, and never made me feel less worthy because I was serving coffee. When we fell in love, I thought I'd found my fairy tale ending. Little did I know, his mother Eleanor would make it her life's mission to break us up. Eleanor Anderson wasn't just rich. She was old money wealthy, the kind who considered anything less than a private jet to be slumming it. From day one, she made it clear that a coffee girl wasn't welcome in the Anderson family. Darling, she'd say to David while I was right there, remember the Rothschild girl? She just got back from Paris, still single. But David stood by me, and we got married in a simple ceremony that Eleanor deemed embarrassingly quaint. For 3 years, I endured her constant belittling. At every family gathering, she'd make subtle digs about my background. "Oh, Lisa dear, is that dress from a department store?" Or, "How fascinating that you used to serve coffee. It must be so nice to never have to work again." What Eleanor didn't know was that while I was making coffee and studying, I'd also been investing in cryptocurrency since its early days. Those investments had grown into a fortune that would make even the Andersons look middle class. But I kept quiet, living simply and reinvesting my profits. David knew about my wealth, but respected my desire to keep it private. The breaking point came during the planning of the annual Anderson family vacation. Every year, Eleanor organized an extravagant trip for the entire extended family, a tradition she used to showcase her wealth and control over the family. This year's planning dinner was held at Eleanor's mansion. As everyone gathered in her opulent dining room, she unveiled her grand plan. "I've arranged something special this year," she announced, practically glowing with self-importance. "I've booked the entire Royal Pearl Island resort for 2 weeks. Private beaches, personal chefs, helicopter tours, only the best for the Andersons." The family oohed and awed appropriately. Royal Pearl was one of the most exclusive private island resorts in the Maldives, normally reserved years in advance. "Now," Eleanor continued, her eyes fixing on me with familiar disdain, "about the guest list. Given the exclusive nature of this vacation, we need to maintain certain standards." I knew what was coming even before she said it. "Lisa dear," she said with false sweetness, "I'm sure you understand that this sort of vacation requires a certain refinement. Perhaps it would be better if you sat this one out. These luxury resorts can be so overwhelming for someone of your background." David immediately protested. "Mother, if Lisa's not going, I'm not going either." Eleanor's face hardened. "Don't be ridiculous, David. The whole family will be there. Your cousins are flying in from Europe. You can't miss it because your wife isn't comfortable in luxury settings." David's sister Charlotte jumped in. "She's right, David. Lisa would feel so out of place. Remember how embarrassed she looked at the yacht club last summer?" I touched David's arm gently. "It's okay," I said quietly. "You should go with your family." I could see Eleanor's triumphant smile, thinking she'd won. What she didn't know was that I'd been making some arrangements of my own. You see, 6 months ago, when I heard Eleanor talking about wanting to book Royal Pearl Island, I'd made a few calls. The resort had been struggling financially due to the economic downturn, and its owner was looking for a quiet buyout. Through a series of shell companies, I'd acquired not just the Royal Pearl Resort, but the entire island. I had kept the previous management in place, knowing this day would come. The next morning, as the Andersons boarded their private jet to the Maldives, I made another call. It was time to set my plan in motion. Eleanor had no idea that her perfect vacation was about to teach her an unforgettable lesson about judging people by their appearances. As their plane took off, I sat in my home office, looking at the resort's security feeds on my laptop. In just a few hours, they would land in paradise, only to discover that paradise belonged to the coffee girl they'd left behind. I smiled as I picked up my phone to call the resort manager. It was time for phase 2 of my plan. The Anderson family arrived at Royal Pearl Island Resort late that afternoon. Eleanor led the group through the pristine white sand beaches toward the luxury villas, already plotting how she'd share this exclusive experience on social media to make her society friends envious. "Welcome to Royal Pearl Island," the resort manager, James, greeted them with a knowing smile. "We've been expecting you." Eleanor beamed. "Everything looks perfect. I assume the presidential villa is ready for me." "About that," James replied, checking his tablet. "There seems to be a slight change in arrangements. The owner is currently using the presidential villa." Eleanor's perfectly maintained face crumpled in confusion. "That's impossible. I specifically booked the entire island. No other guests were supposed to be here." "The owner isn't a guest, Mrs. Anderson. They own the property and have final say over all accommodations." "Well, who is this owner? I demand to speak with them." Eleanor's voice rose, causing other family members to gather around. James smiled politely. "Of course, if you'll all follow me to the main pavilion, the owner has left specific instructions for your arrival." The family was led to an elegant open-air pavilion overlooking the ocean. On a large screen, a video began playing. My face appeared, and I watched through the security feeds as Eleanor's jaw dropped. "Hello, Anderson family," my recorded self said pleasantly. "Welcome to my island. Yes, you heard that correctly. I own Royal Pearl Island Resort, along with several other luxury properties worldwide." The stunned silence was broken by Eleanor's gasp. David tried to suppress a smile, having known this was coming. "You see," I continued on screen, "while you were busy judging me for making coffee and assuming I couldn't afford luxury experiences, I was building an empire. That coffee girl you left behind, she's worth more than the entire Anderson fortune combined." Eleanor collapsed into a chair, her designer purse falling to the ground. Charlotte's face had turned an interesting shade of green. "Now, about your accommodations. Eleanor, you'll be staying in our economy villa. It's quite basic by your standards. But as you said, some people need to learn their place. The rest of the family can choose from our standard rooms." "This is outrageous," Eleanor shrieked. "I paid for the presidential villa." "Your deposit has been refunded," James informed her smoothly. "The owner's decision is final." The video continued. "Oh, and Eleanor? Remember how you said luxury resorts can be overwhelming for someone of my background? Let's test that theory. I've arranged for you to work as a server at the beach bar during your stay. Consider it a learning experience about judging people based on their jobs." Eleanor's face contorted with rage. "I will not. Do you know who I am?" "Yes," James replied calmly. "You're the mother-in-law of our owner, who has left strict instructions. If you don't wish to comply, you're welcome to leave. Though the next flight out isn't for 3 days." What followed was chaos. Eleanor threatened lawsuits, demanded phones, which mysteriously had no signal, and even tried to arrange for a private helicopter, all unavailable, by my orders. For the next 2 weeks, The mighty Eleanor Anderson served drinks to her own family members, wearing the standard staff uniform she'd so often mocked. Every time she delivered a cocktail, the server badge gleamed with her name. Eleanor, trainee. But this isn't just a story about revenge. On their last day, I arrived at the island. Eleanor was serving at the beach bar, her designer clothes replaced by the simple staff uniform. Her carefully maintained appearance wilted in the tropical heat. "Having fun?" I asked, sitting at the bar. She stared at me, her anger seemingly replaced by exhaustion. "Why did you do all this?" "Because you needed to learn that worth isn't determined by background or bank accounts," I replied. "Every person who served you a drink, cleaned your room, or cooked your meals is a human being deserving of respect." Tears formed in her eyes. I never thought about it that way." "I know," I said softly. That was the problem. From that day forward, Eleanor Anderson was a changed woman. The experience of walking in someone else's shoes literally transformed her perspective. She started a foundation providing educational scholarships to service industry workers, and yes, she finally learned to treat people with respect regardless of their job or background. These days, our family dinners are different. Eleanor asks the serving staff about their lives and dreams. She remembers their names and stories. Last Christmas, she even insisted on serving dinner herself, saying it helps her stay grounded. The Royal Pearl Resort? It's still mine, but now it runs a unique program where privileged individuals can experience working in service positions. Eleanor helps run it, sharing her story as a cautionary tale about prejudice and pride. As for David and me, we still enjoy our morning coffee at the same shop where we met. Sometimes Eleanor joins us, chatting easily with the baristas she once would have ignored. She's learned that true character isn't about how you treat your equals. It's about how you treat those you once considered beneath you. Last week, she surprised me with a handmade photo album filled with pictures from that infamous island vacation. On the final page, she'd written, "Thank you for teaching me that the best view of life comes from getting off your high horse." I keep that album in my office at the resort, a reminder that sometimes the greatest luxury isn't about thread counts or private jets. It's about the ability to see the worth in every person you meet. And Eleanor? She still works one shift a month at the beach bar. She says it keeps her humble.